combustion engines consist of mainly the block, heads, intake manifold, ignition system, cooling system, and a lubrication system. This is the engine block. These are the cylinders here. This is a V8. This is the base of the engine. So the cylinders contain pistons. The crankshaft is located here, and the camshaft is located right here. Combustion drives the pistons through the cylinders, and they're connected to the crankshaft by a wrist pin that connects the connecting rod to the piston, and then the connecting rod is connected to the crankshaft. So the main purpose of the pistons is to cause rotation of the crankshaft. These are the heads. These are rocker arms here. So the rocker arms are operated by the camshaft, which is driven by the crankshaft. So there's a timing chain that drives the camshaft off the crankshaft. And the camshaft has egg-shaped lobes on it, and as it rotates, it makes contact with lifters, which move the push rods, which are connected on this side of the rocker arms. The rocker arms pivot, and they operate the intake and exhaust valves. So the intake valves open, introduce combustion air to the cylinders, and the exhaust valves, when they open, they allow the exhaust out to the exhaust manifold. This is the intake manifold. It's basically an air plenum for incoming air. The combustion air gets distributed to the cylinders from the manifold. This is the throttle body right here, which is what you're actually operating in your vehicle. When you press on the gas pedal, you're modulating the airflow to the manifold. This is the ignition system. So we have a battery, ignition coil, spark plug wires, spark plugs, and a distributor. So the battery supplies the electricity to produce a spark. The coil is what actually produces that spark. And from the coil, the spark goes through the spark plug wires, to the distributor. And the distributor distributes the spark through the spark plug wires to the spark plugs in the correct firing sequence. Cooling system. So this is a picture of a rad. And the main components of the cooling system is the radiator, the coolant pump, and a thermostat. So because the block gets hot, the block and the heads get hot from combustion, it needs to be cooled. So there's a water pump driven off the serpentine belt from the crankshaft, and the pump is constantly driving, and the cooling water, or the coolant, circulates through the block and the heads through water jackets and the head gaskets, and it's pumped to the radiator, which there's also a fan driven by the crankshaft, and which will radiate heat to the air. The flow of the coolant is controlled by the thermostat, where it will control how much coolant goes to the radiator and how much coolant is circulated back to the block. So it will open and close based on the coolant temperature. Maintenance. So this is just a picture of an oil filter and a drain plug. The oil needs to be changed because it's exposed to combustion and it gets hot and thick and black. So to change the oil, you would simply remove the drain plug, drain the oil into a pan, put the drain plug back in, and then you would remove the filter, which this one would just be threaded. So you just use an oil filter wrench, loosen it up, thread it out, put a new one in, and then you would fill the engine with the engine oil capacity. This is a picture of a dipstick. You can develop engine oil leaks, so it's important to check the engine oil level and maintain it. The end of the dipstick is immersed in the oil pan, and there's a crosshatch band at the end of it, which will entrain some of the oil that it's immersed in, so that you can check the level. So all you would do was take it out, wipe the end off, put it back in, and take it out again quickly, and look at the crosshatch band to see what the oil level is. Main uses of an internal combustion engine are generally, often it's a diesel driving a generator via coupling. The diesel doesn't have a typical battery ignition coil spark plug setup. It simply runs on heated compression, so the air-fuel mixture and the heated compression is enough for ignition. And driving a vehicle is obviously the main use for an internal combustion engine. So that's all there is about internal internal combustion engine, so hopefully you learned something about how they work and their uses.